You ever feel that moment when the people who were supposed to protect you suddenly feel like strangers? That moment when the same hands that once held you now shove you toward the edge? Yeah, that was me. And it all began on the night my entire family decided I was the villain of a story I didn't even know existed. I'm talking the kind of betrayal that hits so deep in your chest, you actually forget to breathe for a second. It started with one envelope, one accusation, one lie so perfectly crafted that for a moment, even I questioned myself. And yet somehow, that night became the beginning of the rise I never saw coming. I grew up thinking my family was normal, loud, messy, dramatic, but still, family. My mother was the type who could stare at you from across the room and instantly know if you were hiding something. My older brother? The golden child, the one everyone compared me to. And my younger sister? The one who could cry her way out of a federal investigation. Me? I was the middle one, the responsible one, the peacemaker, the one everyone leaned on until the day everything flipped. See, while my siblings were building their chaos, I was building my life, slowly, carefully, paycheck by paycheck. I worked 2 jobs for years, saved every extra dollar, and finally, I scraped enough together to chase my own dream. A small design studio. Tiny, but mine. And maybe that's where the first crack formed. Because the more I succeeded, the more I noticed the whispers, the side glances, the tension that rolled through family dinners like a silent storm. But still, I didn't think much of it until the night that envelope hit the table. My mom called a family meeting. Those 2 words alone should have been a warning. In my family, a meeting usually meant someone was in trouble. I just didn't know it would be me. Everyone was already seated when I walked in. My brother leaning back with that smug little smirk. My sister pretending to be shocked over something on her phone. My mother sitting stiff, jaw locked. And then my dad slid that envelope toward me. No one said a word, not even a cough. Just that heavy, horrible silence. Inside was a printed bank statement. My bank statement. Except it wasn't real. It showed transfers from my parents' savings account to mine. Money I supposedly stole. Money they claimed I siphoned without permission. I laughed at first, like a real laugh, because the idea was so absurd, I thought it was some kind of prank. But their faces didn't move. Not even a blink. I said, "This isn't mine. I never made these transfers." But they didn't want explanations. They wanted a confession. My mother said, "We trusted you. We defended you. And this is how you repay us?" My dad didn't say a word. He just looked away like I was already a stranger. And my siblings? Oh, they were loving every second. Something in my chest cracked. Not like heartbreak, more like betrayal meeting disbelief at full speed. But here's the thing. The statement wasn't just fake. It was expertly faked. Someone wanted me gone. Someone wanted me destroyed. And someone in that room knew exactly what they were doing. I walked outside, shaking, clutching that stupid envelope. The sky felt heavier, darker than usual, like even the universe knew something was wrong. Every memory, every birthday, every family trip, every little moment I thought meant something. It all felt like it was collapsing at once. My family thought I stole from them. They thought I betrayed them. But I didn't know yet. This wasn't just an accusation. This was a setup. The first strike in a plan way bigger than I realized. And the person who orchestrated it? Someone I never would have suspected. That betrayal? It was just the beginning. I kept replaying the moment in my head like some cruel loop I couldn't escape. Their faces, their voices, the way they looked at me like I was something rotten. I tried telling myself it was just shock, that they didn't mean it, that once everything calmed down, someone would come talk to me. But no one did. Not that night. Not the next morning. Not even after 3 days. My phone was silent, except for the occasional message from people I barely knew. Screenshots, gossip, lies spreading like wildfire. My own family didn't even call. It felt like everyone had pressed some invisible button and erased me from their world. On the 4th day, I decided I couldn't hide in my apartment anymore. I needed answers, or at least closure. So I got dressed, hand shaking, stomach tight, and drove back to my parents' house. The driveway was full. Everyone was home, everyone, except me. When I walked inside, it felt like stepping into a courtroom. My father sat stiff on the couch. My aunt and uncle whispered something under their breath. My sister scrolled her phone, but kept glancing at me from the corner of her eye like I was something she wasn't supposed to stare at directly. My mother didn't even greet me. She just folded her arms and said, "So? What do you have to say for yourself?" That sentence hit harder than every insult thrown at me earlier. What do you have to say for yourself? Like I had already been tried and found guilty without even opening my mouth. I swallowed and told them the truth. Every detail, step by step, everything that actually happened and everything that didn't. I kept expecting someone to soften, to show even some sign that they believed me, but every face stayed cold. When I finished, my father just shook his head and said, "You should have thought of all this before lying." Lying. That word burned. It wasn't frustration, it was heartbreak. Because this wasn't just a misunderstanding. This was them choosing the version of the story that made me look the worst. It was easier for them, more convenient. I tried again. I raised my voice. I cried. I even begged, something I never thought I'd do. But they had already decided who I was going to be in their narrative. A villain, a disappointment, a stain on the family's perfect image. I left the house shaking, but something inside me had hardened. It was like the last bit of innocence had cracked away. I wasn't going to keep chasing people who wanted me to fail. That was the moment I realized I had to survive this alone. But I didn't know how hard the next part would be. A few days later, I lost my job. Someone had forwarded the accusations to my workplace. My manager looked at me like I was radioactive and said they couldn't have someone with controversy attached to the company. Controversy. It didn't matter that it was all false. The stain was enough. Bills piled up. Anxiety became my alarm clock. Every night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, wondering how my life had shattered from a lie I didn't create. Then something happened that pushed everything past the breaking point. I got an email from the person who actually started the rumor. Someone I trusted, someone I never thought would hurt me like this. Their message was short, almost casual. They said they didn't realize things would go that far and hoped I was doing okay. Doing okay? I read it 3 times. My entire life had collapsed, and they wrote to me like they had accidentally spilled coffee on my carpet. That email lit a fire in me. For the first time since everything started, I felt something other than fear or shame. I felt anger. Real, sharp, focused anger. And under that anger, a quiet determination. I realized no one was coming to save me. Not family, not friends, not even anyone who once claimed to care. If I was going to climb out of this hole, I'd have to do it with my own hands. So I got to work. I began documenting every detail of what happened, every message, every timestamp, every person involved. I filed a formal complaint about the person who created the rumor. I consulted legal aid offices and searched for free resources. It was exhausting, overwhelming, and sometimes humiliating, but for the first time in weeks, I felt in control. And while all of this was happening, something else shifted inside me. I stopped wishing for an apology from my family. I stopped waiting for them to come around. I realized that anyone who abandons you when lies surround you would have abandoned you sooner or later anyway. This situation didn't create their disloyalty. It exposed it. One night, sitting alone with piles of evidence spread across the floor, I felt something strange. Peace. Not because things were fixed, they weren't, but because I finally understood I wasn't fighting to convince them anymore. I was fighting for myself. And that was when everything began to change. The shift didn't happen overnight. It wasn't dramatic or loud. It was quiet, steady, almost invisible at first, but I felt it. Each day that passed, I cared less about clearing my name in their eyes and more about rebuilding a life that didn't depend on their approval. It was strange, freeing even, to realize I didn't need them as much as I once believed. I found a small freelance job online. It didn't pay much, but it gave me something to hold on to, a place to start. I threw myself into learning new skills, watching tutorials late into the night, practicing until my eyes burned. My world shrank to my laptop, my living room, and the determination that pulsed through my veins like caffeine. Every time doubt crept in, I reminded myself of that moment in my parents' living room, their cold stares, their harsh words. I replayed it until it stopped hurting and started motivating me. One afternoon, as I organized my evidence and drafted yet another email to the legal support office, something unexpected happened. I received an offer, a real one, a proper, well-paying, legitimate project from a company that had seen my small online work. They wanted to hire me for a contract. I stared at the message for a long time, rereading it to make sure it wasn't a mistake. It wasn't. I accepted immediately. That job became a turning point. Not financially, not yet, but emotionally. It reminded me that the world was bigger than the people who turned their backs on me, that I still had value, even if my family couldn't see it. Slowly, things started to shift. My bank account wasn't full, but it was breathing again. I wasn't drowning anymore. I could pay my bills on time. I could sleep a little easier at night. I even caught myself humming while making breakfast one morning, something I hadn't done in months. But life has a way of testing you right when you start getting comfortable. A distant cousin reached out one day, someone who had stayed silent during the chaos. They sent a short voice note saying they felt bad about what happened and that maybe I should talk things out with my family. Their message wasn't malicious, but it made my stomach twist. Talk things out. As if the problem was silence. As if the problem wasn't them choosing lies over me with zero hesitation. I thanked them politely and said I was focusing on rebuilding my life. And for the first time, I meant it. Then came the moment I never expected. The person who started the rumor, the one who ruined my reputation, cost me my job and shattered my family, was exposed. Not by me, not by legal action, but by their own mistakes. They tried to repeat the same lies about someone else, and this time the truth came out immediately. Screenshots spread, proof surfaced. Their credibility collapsed in front of everyone. People started connecting the dots. Quietly at first, then loudly. It was like watching a storm clear and sunlight break through. Suddenly, the same people who had once whispered about me started whispering about them. The same relatives who judged me so quickly now questioned why they ever believed anything in the first place. The same cold eyes that once dismissed me now looked confused, regretful, even uncomfortable. My mother called first. I didn't answer. She tried again the next day, then the next. Finally, she left a message, her voice softer than I had heard in months. She said they might have misunderstood some things and should talk things out like a family. Like a family. I sat with that phrase for a long time. I wondered what kind of family abandons you at the first sign of trouble. What kind of family chooses gossip over truth? What kind of family humiliates their own without even asking for their side? And then I realized something important. I didn't miss them. I missed the version of them I thought they were. The version that protected me, supported me, believed in me. That version never actually existed. It was just an illusion I built because it made life easier to navigate. The next week, something unbelievable happened. My legal complaint gained traction. I received a formal notice that the case was being reviewed. It didn't promise justice, not yet, but it validated everything I had been fighting for. For the first time since this nightmare began, the truth wasn't just mine. It was documented. It was recognized. It was real in the eyes of the system, not just in my own heart. And as all of this unfolded, my new project wrapped up. The client was thrilled and referred me to 3 others. Then those clients referred me to more. My inbox slowly transformed into a small, steady opportunity machine. I was still far from stable, but I was rising. And that rise came from my own hands, not from the people who abandoned me, not from the ones who caused the damage, but from me. One evening, while sitting on my balcony, the city lights flickering below, I got a message from my father. Just a single sentence. We want to see you. Not, we're sorry. Not, we were wrong. Not, we believe you now. Just a request. A request for me to return to the same people who pushed me out like I was disposable. I stared at the screen, feeling absolutely nothing. No anger, no sadness, no desire. Just clarity. I didn't block him. I didn't respond either. I set my phone down and closed my eyes, letting the cool night breeze wash over me. For the first time, I felt whole without them. They had taken my peace once. They weren't going to get another chance. But fate wasn't done with me yet, because the biggest twist, my true moment of rising, was still coming. The biggest turning point arrived on a morning that started like any other. I was sitting at my desk, sipping cheap instant coffee, answering emails from clients. The sun was barely up. My apartment was quiet except for the soft clicking of my keyboard. Nothing special about it, nothing dramatic. And yet, that was the moment my life shifted for good. I received an email from a major company, far bigger than anything I had worked on before. Someone had recommended me. They said they needed a storyteller, someone who understood emotion, someone who could craft narratives with depth. I reread the message 3 times, convinced it had been sent to the wrong person. But no, it was addressed to me. Me, the same person my family had written off as a disgrace. They wanted a meeting, a paid contract, a long-term partnership. My hands shook as I typed my response, not out of fear, but out of disbelief. I had rebuilt myself from scratch, brick by brick, and this opportunity felt like the universe finally whispering, I saw your struggle. I saw your fight. The meeting was scheduled 2 days later. I prepared obsessively. Notes, drafts, ideas, research. When the call began, I expected to feel intimidated, but I didn't. Instead, I felt ready, confident, grounded. I spoke like someone who had survived fire and learned how to walk through flames without flinching. And they saw it. They felt it. By the end of the call, they offered me the contract. I signed it while my throat tightened with emotions I couldn't name. Relief, redemption, pride, a deep, quiet sense of justice. Not the kind you shout about, but the kind you carry inside your chest like a warm ember. Work became my escape and my power. Every story I wrote, every deadline I hit, every appreciation message from clients, it all stitched me back together. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was becoming someone stronger, wiser, unbreakable. But life wasn't done circling back. A month later, my father sent another message, a longer one this time. It talked about family, about misunderstandings, about wanting to move forward and heal. It was filled with words, but none of them were apologies. None of them acknowledged what they had done to me. It read like someone trying to fix the consequences without confronting the cause. I didn't reply, not because I was angry, but because I no longer needed closure from people who refused to grow. Silence became my boundary. Distance became my protection. But things took an unexpected turn when my cousin, one of the few who had stayed neutral, called to update me. Apparently, the family was having problems of their own. Tensions, arguments, trust issues. The same people who once judged me were now dealing with the fallout of their own choices. The rumor that destroyed my life had fractured theirs too, slowly and quietly. I didn't feel satisfaction, just clarity. The truth had a way of circling back, even if it took its time. Then on a quiet Sunday afternoon, something happened that I never saw coming. My mother arrived at my door. No warning, no call, just showed up. When I opened the door, she looked older, more fragile, her eyes heavy with something I couldn't read at first. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she stepped inside, her shoulders trembling just slightly. She told me she had been thinking, reflecting, replaying everything. She admitted she had acted out of fear, not truth, out of pressure, not clarity. She said she was sorry. The word hung in the air like a rare, unexpected gift. Sorry. It didn't erase the past. It didn't undo the damage. But hearing it mattered. Not because I needed validation, but because it showed something I'd stopped hoping for. Accountability. I listened. I didn't interrupt. I didn't cry. When she finished, she looked at me with the same eyes that once couldn't even bear to meet mine. This time, they were soft, uncertain, almost pleading. Then she asked the question I had been dreading. Can we start over? I looked at her carefully, weighing the moment. The old version of me, the one desperate for love, desperate to be understood, would have said yes immediately. But the new version of me, the one who had survived betrayal, loneliness, and rebuilding her life from zero, didn't want to respond out of emotion. I told her the truth. I wasn't ready. I wasn't sure if I ever would be. But I didn't hate her. I didn't wish harm on anyone. I just needed space. Real space. Healing space. She nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. She didn't argue. She didn't beg. She simply accepted it. And oddly, that acceptance was the most real thing she'd offered me in years. When she left, I felt a strange mixture of sadness and strength. A door had opened, but I didn't feel pressured to walk through it. I finally understood that forgiveness wasn't a gift for them. It was freedom for me. The real rise wasn't about proving them wrong. It wasn't about revenge or vindication. It was about reclaiming my power, rewriting my story, and becoming someone who didn't need permission to exist. And that rise was only getting started, because within 2 weeks of that meeting with my mother, I received a call that would change everything again. A journalist had found my complaint. They wanted to interview me about false accusations, digital harassment, and how families can be torn apart by rumors. They said my story could help others going through similar situations. For a second, I froze. My story? Out in the open? Was I ready for that? But the more I thought about it, the clearer it became. My silence had protected the wrong people for too long. And my voice, my story, could be the thing that finally closed this chapter for good. I agreed. The interview was scheduled for the following week, and I had no idea how much that decision would transform everything that came next. The day of the interview arrived faster than I expected. I woke up before sunrise, my stomach twisting with nerves. It wasn't fear of speaking, it was fear of being seen, truly seen. Every wound, every scar, every moment of weakness I had tried so hard to hide. But deep down, I knew this was necessary. Not for revenge, not for attention, but for closure. The kind that doesn't rely on someone else's apology. The kind you earn yourself. I chose simple clothes. Nothing flashy, nothing dramatic, just something that felt like me. The version of me that had survived the storm. The version that had learned how to stand alone. When I looked in the mirror before leaving, I didn't see the broken, exhausted person from months ago. I saw someone stronger, someone wiser, someone who had rebuilt her life piece by piece. The studio was small and quiet. The journalist greeted me with a warm smile, the kind that didn't feel fake or forced. She asked simple questions first, my background, my work, my hobbies. Then slowly, gently, she moved into the deeper parts, the betrayal, the lie, the fallout, my family. For a moment, my throat tightened, but I kept talking. I didn't hold back. I told her the truth exactly as it happened. Not exaggerated, not softened, just honest. The more I spoke, the lighter I felt, like each sentence peeled away a layer of heaviness I had been carrying for too long. The journalist listened with genuine empathy. She didn't rush me. She didn't redirect the conversation. She let me reclaim my narrative in my own words. When it was over, she thanked me. She said my story would help people who felt silenced, misunderstood, or abandoned. I walked out of that studio feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Pride. But the world wasn't done surprising me. 2 weeks later, the interview went live. I hadn't told anyone, not friends, not family. I didn't tag myself, I didn't share it. I just watched from the background, expecting a handful of views at most. But within hours, the video exploded. Thousands of comments poured in from people who had lived similar experiences, people who had been blamed for things they never did, people who were cast out, misunderstood, accused, and abandoned, people who thought they were alone. And suddenly, through my story, they realized they weren't. It was overwhelming, emotional, healing. For the first time, the world wasn't laughing at me. It wasn't judging me. It was listening, really listening. Then came the message I never anticipated. My sister. She wrote a long paragraph, longer than anything she had ever sent me before. She said she had watched the interview 3 times. She said she didn't realize how deeply everything had affected me. She said she was sorry for not standing up for me. She said she believed the lie because it was easier than questioning the family narrative. She said she was ashamed. I stared at the message for a long time. I didn't cry. I didn't feel triumphant. I just felt calm, like a wound was finally closing from the inside. I didn't reply immediately. I wanted to think. I didn't want to respond from emotion or bitterness. I wanted to be intentional. The next day, I wrote back. I told her I appreciated her message. I told her I forgave her, not because she asked for it, but because holding on to pain would only anchor me to a past I had outgrown. I told her we could rebuild, but slowly, gently, with boundaries this time. She agreed. My father reached out too, not with excuses this time, but with genuine accountability. He admitted he was wrong. He admitted he was influenced by what others said. He admitted he should have protected me, not judged me. And for the first time in my entire life, I heard honesty in his voice. Even my extended family, those who had whispered behind my back, sent messages, apologies, explanations, regrets. I didn't respond to most of them. Not out of anger, but because I realized some doors didn't need to be reopened. Some chapters were better left closed. But my mother, she surprised me the most. She sent a voice message, her voice trembling. She said she had watched the interview again and again. She said it made her realize how deeply she had failed me. She said she didn't expect forgiveness, but she hoped
one day, maybe, I could trust her again. She said she was proud of me, not for surviving, but for rising. Those words hit harder than any apology, not because they erased the past, but because they acknowledged my strength. And just when I thought things couldn't shift any further, the biggest moment happened. My story caught the attention of the same major company I had signed with earlier. They asked me to lead a new storytelling division, one focused on real journeys, human resilience, emotional truth. They said my life wasn't just a story, it was a blueprint of courage. I accepted. The contract was bigger than anything I had ever imagined. The salary, the opportunities, the platform, it was everything I had once dreamed of but never believed I deserved. And yet now, standing on the other side of everything I had endured, it felt earned. A few months later, I stood in my new office, overlooking the city that had once witnessed my lowest moments. I thought about the nights I cried on my balcony, the days I couldn't get out of bed, the moments I thought I would break. And yet here I was. Not broken, not defeated, but reborn. My family didn't define my worth. Their silence didn't determine my identity. Their betrayal didn't decide my future. I did. I built myself back up from nothing. I learned to trust myself again. I learned that loyalty means nothing without truth. And I learned that sometimes the people who hurt you the most teach you the lessons you needed the most. I didn't rise out of revenge. I rose because I was meant to. Because sometimes losing everything is the first step to finding yourself. And I did. I found myself. And I'm never losing me again.